Right. Got going on here. Refresh it. Whatever. I didn't ask for that. Stop. All right. All righty, this is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. Make sure my signal's on. Good to go. Let's talk a little football. Got the Cardinals and the Seahawks going at it tonight. Two teams in the NFC West. Seattle's off to a surprising 3-0 start, led by the seemingly unbreakable Sam Darnold. And they're going to take on Kyler Murray and his Cardinals. I know the Cardinals survived the Panthers, but I don't know if they won any other games. They're either 2-1 or 1-2. I got to check the records on that. But Donald is clearly going to be the surprise that we need to talk about. Last time we saw him, he was quarterbacking the Vikings in the playoffs, and he had a great season, which was unexpected, especially after the Vikings had lost McCarthy. They kind of had they were going to bring him along and try to start him midway through the season, but when he got hurt, that kind of derailed their plans. So they had Donald on the roster just as a, fallback. Well, he had to get out there right away, and when he did, he played great football. All the way up to the end, he had to play Detroit in Game 17, and that determined who won the division, with both teams being 14-2. He didn't play so good against Detroit, and they ended up going on a wild card, and they had to go on the road even with that gaudy 14-3 record. Causing some people to wonder, why do a team with such a high record have to go on the road? Well, hell, you didn't win your division. It made no difference if they were 16-1. You didn't win your division, you just don't win. But he didn't play well against the Rams either. So people thought, well, Donald, that season he had was just flukish. So they shipped him off and ended up in Seattle because they were going to go with this guy, J.J. McCarthy. Lane Doherty, how you doing, man? Yeah, they 2-1. And Martin Luther, how you doing, man? So the question is, could the Vikings win with this guy, J.J. McCarthy? They had everything else in place. They had a good defense. They had a great wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. So the question is, can he get it to him? I wondered because I never thought he can get it to him. Langston Terrace TV, how you doing, man? I don't know what you mean by cut or uncut. I don't know if you're talking to me or somebody else. But anyway, I never thought J.J. McCarthy was an NFL quarterback. And the fact that they were going to go with him last year made me scratch my head. The fact that they drafted him with the fourth pick, I was really puzzled by that. Yeah, I know he was a quarterback in Michigan, and they won the national championship, but that doesn't mean that translates to the next level. And the style of play that Michigan had was completely different from what you saw in the NFL. Now, I understand that a lot of the elements you see nowadays in football with a lot of the running quarterbacks do directly relate to college football, which I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, but it certainly gave some guys some opportunities that would never have gotten that shot. If you look back into the past, there were a lot of guys that were great in college but never got a chance to play in the pros because the mindset was they couldn't cross over. It wouldn't translate. But they don't have that issue now because a lot of the concepts in the pros are directly related to college. But when McCarthy got hurt after struggling so far this year, I think they celebrated that in Minnesota because it gave them a chance to go find somebody, anybody, off the trash sheet to come in and run the offense. And the odds were that they were going to do it better than what McCarthy was doing. So lo and behold, they go pick up Carson Wentz, the off-travel Carson Wentz, and he comes in, and what do? They blow out the Bengals. Now, granted, it was the Bengals, and the Bengals don't have a quarterback, and they had some things that don't normally happen go their way and turn into a massive blowout. But they could play the Bengals again this weekend and it'd be a completely different game. But that's not their problem. They got away with it. So what are they going to do? They're going to start Wentz again. And he has the opportunity to keep his team in the game to do much better than what McCarthy was doing. Now, the other teams around the league are looking at that because their teams around the league with struggling quarterbacks. Bryce Young, struggle. Then they have a good game. Then they go back to struggling again. Now, they played the Falcons the other day with the other young starting quarterback, Michael Penix. Penix, he had been playing pretty well up to that point, but he didn't play so well against the Panthers. And they ended up getting blown out by 30 points, the first shutout of the year. But what's strange about that is not only did they get blown out, he also had more yardage than what Bryce Young had with Carolina. He had like 170, and Young had like 120 something. So neither quarterback is playing well. So when you see something like that, that means teams are getting helped out a lot when you have stat lines like that. Just like with Cincinnati, they turn the ball over. They got special teams blunders that turn into points, and before you know it, everything snowball. Well, that's kind of the way the things that happen with Carolina and Atlanta. And when they play again later in the season, you can expect that it's going to be a different game. But in the meantime, both these young quarterbacks are going to have to continue to grow. Otherwise, they're going to be in the same situation like what they had before. Because they brought in Kirk Cousins to kind of right the ship. After that guy, what's his name, DeRitter? They had Mariota in there, and he didn't pan out, so they brought DeRitter in there. He didn't pan out, so they got rid of both them. Came up with Kirk Cousins. He played okay, but the young guy was coming hard, they say. So the minute Cousins started to struggle, they throw him in there. So I'm thinking, with all these quarterback struggles, somebody's going to get on the phone and call the Falcons and say, let me get Kirk Cousins off you for X amount of draft picks or whatever, because we need some more backup quarterbacks. I thought the Vikings would call Cousins back, but they didn't do it. So now that Penix is struggling, how long are they going to stick with him before they make a switch? Now, the wild card in all that is Raheem Morris. He doesn't have a great track record as a head coach. Struggling in Tampa as a young head coach. He got another shot with the Falcons. They didn't do so great last year. Now they're off to a slow start now. And if they continue to struggle, by struggle, I mean being inconsistent. They didn't play that great in the first week. And they came back in the second game and played pretty well. And they laid the egg last week against Carolina. So who are the real Falcons? That's the question that needs to be answered. And the inconsistency points directly back to the head coach. And when I look at the head coach and he's got a spotty head coach record, I don't think his hook is going to be very long. So if he don't hurry up and turn it around, he's going to be in the same boat as Brian Daboll. Now, Brian Daboll, the coach of the Giants, he has made a decision to switch over to Jackson Dart. Hold on, let me say hello to everybody. Lane Dart, how you doing, man? Being a Cardinal fan is rough. I don't have faith in our offensive coordinator. And being a Cardinal fan has always been rough, even all the way back to St. Louis, man. I remember when they played in St. Louis. They did have some good season when they had Jimmy Hart back in the 70s. And Dan, what's his name, the announcer. But football talk, that's Langston TV Terrace. What talking about? Losing Connor was devastating. Yeah, James Conner is tough, man. I don't know if he's out for the whole season or not. I need to check on how long he's going to be out. JC, how you doing? Selmo Fudd, what's going on? What they doing with these young quarterbacks like Cam Ward and Sanders? Well, Cam Ward he's number one draft choice. They have to put him out there. They got a young struggling team in Tennessee, so why not play him? He's really got nobody to sit behind. And then you have Sanders. I think Sanders is a victim of circumstance. But at the same time, Cleveland seems to be in a better position than Atlanta because they got a great defense. And those defense would keep them in the game. So if you got a guy like Flacco that can manage the game and not lose it for you, he can stay out there and play until these young guys get ready. Now, what Sanders has to do is keep his nose in that playbook and be ready to go when they call his number. He may get one shot in Cleveland. They may deal him somewhere else. But at some point, he's going to get a shot, and he has to be ready. He can't get down in his feelings or any of that. You just have to be ready to go when the number gets called. But I think eventually he will get a shot, and then he's going to have to show and prove. And all that talk and hype and all that doesn't mean anything. He's gotten to the point where he wants to be. He's on the NFL roster. Anytime you're on the NFL roster, anything can happen at that point. And at some point, he's going to get a chance. Now, if you're a career backup where you're a third stringer, 4 or 5 years, then that means you're not really progressing. So you can get cut at any time. All right. Yes, Dart should start, give the young buck a shot. Wilson isn't getting it done. Okay, my question about that is based on the fact that you have Jameis Winston, who is your third string quarterback. Now that they bench Wilson, the word is that he didn't have any backups around the locker room. They don't really want to follow him. So he will probably go back to being the third string quarterback and moving up Winston to number 2. So if Jackson Dart struggles, you're likely to go with Winston before you go back to Russell. But I don't think Russell, he said he's going to be there for the team and all of that, but Russell is getting paid. What is he making, $10, $12 million a year this year? He wants to play like any competitor, but at the same time, he is on the roster, and every Tuesday he gets paid. So, yeah, put him on out there. I get paid too. So JC says on Sunday, I feel Cleveland will play one of the rookie quarterbacks, especially if Flacco doesn't move the ball. I don't think so. Why would you make a bad situation worse? It's the same situation that Dart is going to walk into when he plays against the Chargers. They're going to play all kind of games with this man, and they're going to show him some stuff he hadn't seen. All you see in practice, you're running against a scout defense. You're not going to see too many exotic things there. You might talk about it, but you're not going to see it. You're not going to see it in preseason because I'm not going to show you what I might throw at you during the regular season. So when he gets out there, he's going to see some stuff he's never seen. So my point is this. If Dart gets out there and he plays well against a team like the Chargers, who plays all these games on defense, then the Giants will know if they have something. But either way, it points back to the head coach. If he does play well, people are going to want to know, why didn't you play this guy before? You knew all along that he had the capability because you see him in practice every day. But if he doesn't play well and he gets hurt, that's still Dayball's fault. Why would you put him out there against the Chargers when you know he wasn't fully ready, even though Wilson struggled? So why not go with Jameis Winston? He's in a no-win situation. He had to make that move right now because the team is 0-3. And if he goes another 2 or 3 losses, he goes 0-5, I don't think he's going to make it to 0-6. So whatever happens, I think Dayball is out of there at the end of this year. Unless this team goes on a run and gets hot. And always going to depend on how well Jackson Dart does. So Dayball is in a position where it didn't make a difference at this point. What happens? What they really needed to do was to win that Dallas game. And if you Russell Wilson, you throw all those yards against the Cowboys. Then the next game after that, you put me on the bench. Is he really playing that bad, or was the Cowboys game a fluke? That's the question that must be asked. But either way, Dart's going to get a start. He's been coming on all along. And now if he's a player that you just have to play, then it's time for him to get on out there and play regardless of who they're playing against. But my thing is this: why not play him against the Chargers? Because he's going to see it to make a difference what team you play. They're going to all play the same kind of games. And if you're making basic mistakes, you're going to make it against any team. So it doesn't really matter. Okay, Lane says Connor is done for the season. That's you're going to have to go make a couple phone calls to get your running back from somewhere. I would say call, maybe get Najee Harris, but I think he tore his ACL. He might be done for the year too. Trey Benson has large shoes to fill. That's true. But Flacco isn't a mobile quarterback. Sanders can scramble if he gets in trouble. Well, so is Lamar Jackson. You see what they did for him when they started beating on him. I told you guys, if you want to beat the Ravens, you got to stop Henry coming up the middle. When Henry gets stopped, the next thing you're going to look to do is try to get Jackson running around the outside. Why? Because you clogging in trying to take away Henry. So when you take him away from running the outside and they don't have the middle run, the next thing they're going to do is keep him bottled up in the pocket. They're going to play a defense and they're going to run all kind of games up front, stunt and tackle games, and they're going to keep Jackson into a pocket. Then they're going to get to him. And that's what happened to him the other night. It makes a big difference when you can run the football for any quarterback, but it's essential for a guy like Lamar Jackson to have a running game besides himself for him to be able to be successful. Because if he has to be solely a pocket passer, he can't beat you that way. And it's been proven time and time again. So the Ravens have to run the football for Jackson to be successful. And granted, like I said, he is passing the ball a lot better, but for him to be dependent on it, he's not there where he can do that. All right. Solution is simple. What's the solution then? Floppo, what's the solution? Get bigger Penix? Oh, you talking about? All right. All joking aside, Chargers look good. They don't have a lot wrong at all. Also, this is a Lamar's year. Well, will it ever be Lamar's year? But it's still early. It doesn't matter if you were 0-3, you're still in the race. Personally, I think the Ravens are still going to be there. They've had the Bills beat. They can play with the Bills. They know they can play with Detroit. These supposed to be the top teams in the league. They was controlling the game. So they have to get beyond themselves and stop making critical errors. And I know they don't have Matabuke, the guy they were missing the other night, but I still think Detroit would have been able to run the football against them. And they're going to have to fix that. But my thing about Baltimore, they were talking about how much better they were going to be in the secondary. And I'm not seeing that. One of the announcers made the point the other night, they were built to beat or play against teams like Kansas City, teams that are going to throw the ball. They're not built to stop people from running the football. And that's the only thing that I have issue with NFL. They like Mike and Ike, just like everybody else. Everybody wants to go spread and throw all the time. But if you got a good running back, why not line up and run it right at them? History has shown if you got a good line and a good back, you can run. History has shown you that. So why throw just to please the fans when you're losing? Well, if you line up on the center and run it at them, control the clock, then you can stay in these games. And you know the NFL games always come down to the last kick anyway. So why not give yourself a better shot by just simply running the football? And that was Atlanta's problem. In game 2, they did that. Ran the football against the Texans. They didn't do that against Carolina. Look what happened. You want to get a young quarterback with this big contract, let's see him throw. Hell, what good is he doing if he's going to throw interceptions all the time? All right. Oh, Henry was a candy bar. Yeah, I remember that, Selmo. Could be worse, could be in the same situation the Bengals are in. Them guys are cooked. Yeah, Jamar Chase going to pull his hair out. But that's the same look Justin Jefferson had when J.J. McCarthy was out there. He's not an NFL quarterback to me. And he's proven it when he's on the field. That's why I say when he got hurt, the people in Minnesota were cheering that because, hell, he can't do it. And Jefferson may not come out and say it, but the look on his face tells you, well, if you go back and look at the game before the last game they played after the Bears, I forget who they were playing, but they showed him, and, man, that man had eyes like, what the hell is going on? He was basically telling you that this guy can't do it, and at this rate, I'm not going to get the football. At least with Carson Wentz, he's trying to get him the football. Now, Jackson Dart's going to do the same thing with Malik Neighbors. For the life of me, I don't know why Wilson wasn't trying to get him the football. A lot of that has to do with the coverages, especially after the big game he had against the Cowboys. But get a guy like Scatterboo, you got to give the man the football. And you see what he does when he does get the ball. So a lot of that has to do with the coaches, man. All these teams have the players to do certain things. If the coach doesn't get them the ball, then you have to blame it on the coach. All right. Who do you got in the Eagles versus Bucks? I think the Eagles is a better team than the Bucks. Bucks got 9 lives right now. which is a good thing because those tiebreakers are going to come in handy later on. But eventually, it's going to start turning against them. And same thing with Philadelphia. They're going to lose a couple of games too. What do you disagree about, Dylan? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to stick with my Chiefs, though. Just wish Kelsey would get his head out of it. Man, Kelsey in love, man. I've seen it, like I told you guys before, I've seen this in high school. You bring a kid in that's a freshman, that's nobody has any expectations of anything. They start to do well athletically, and now everybody wants to be their friend. They get the big head, and they don't perform the same way they did the year before. Well, Kelsey's at the end of his career, and now he's about to get married to Swift, and he's got championships. He can't be broke. If he is in college old lady, get a couple million. So, where's the hunger there? And I think that's his problem. He's just not interested anymore. And if that's the case, he needs to go and retire because he's in the way. But if you ever get his head right and they get their receiver core right, then Kansas City is going to be fine. I've been telling you all along. And now the national media is starting to say the same thing. Call Miami and get Tyreek back in Kansas City. He's got issues down there that you need to get away from. And going back to Kansas City will be just the shot in the arm he needs. And somebody like Mahomes can start throwing that deep ball again. And that will open everything else up, especially Travis Kelce. So, Bucks aren't that team, not over Eagles at all. I agree. I got Eagles or Bucks and Green Bay over Dallas. I think Green Bay big over Dallas. They don't have CeeDee Lamb. So now they're going to start double covering Pickens. And I don't think he's going to do well against that double coverage. And, Parsley is going to get after Prescott. So that could get ugly, just like that playoff game did a couple years ago when those two teams played. I like the Packers, so it make me happy to see the Cowgirls lose. Floppo, I think that Dallas is done. And you're going to see a lot of flashes up from the TV camera in the owner's box. He might be turning red up there, but it's his own fault. He felt like the man was outshining him. So he had to get rid of him, regardless of what it did to his team. And I don't know what Clowney is doing. I know they signed Clowney. I don't think he made any noise last game. So he's going to have to step up to at least help his team get better. But those players on the Cowboys side, they never wanted to lose Parsons in the first place. And that was a big loss for them, man. All right. Yeah, he ain't hungry no more, man. I think once he gets married, how long is he going to be happy? That's the only thing about the marriage thing. A lot of guys do stuff they don't want to do to keep her happy. But when that runs out, then those relationships tend to break up. And basically any relationship. I won't get into that. That's a slippery slope there. If they want a rookie quarterback, especially if Flacco doesn't move the ball against the line. Okay, you guys talking like the Lions are invincible. You can move the football against Detroit. But what Detroit will do will get after that quarterback. You got a balanced attack, you can beat the Lions. You got a running quarterback that can escape like Jaden Daniels, is accurate downfield, you can beat the Lions. Now, if you go back to the playoff game, he was scrambling around. They tried to bottle him up, but he's more accurate of a passer than what Jackson is. And if he's got time to throw, he's going to get it there. So he was able to run the ball, not as much as he had done all year, but he was able to complete those passes down the field. And it makes a big difference, man. So the Ravens, I think they're going to have a good game against Kansas City. I think they're still in a position where they're not a bad team. And I think that Kansas City is not scoring enough points right now. And they're going to need at least 20, 24 to have a chance to beat Baltimore. But if they're not scoring over 20 points, then I don't expect them to beat Baltimore this week. Now, when they get their receivers back healthy, Rashee Rice off suspension, then that'll be a different Kansas City team. But this is an opportunity for Baltimore to get well. But I am concerned a little bit about Henry. I never seen him crack up the way he did after he fumbled. He trying to slam his helmet down on the sideline. He slips and falls on the seat, and he got that bewildered look on his face. I mean, I never seen that from that guy before. Maybe he's never faced any real adversity as a player, but that was a strange thing for me to see. All right. What are my real expectations for Dart running things? I think Dart's going to get his legs real quick. I thought he was a good quarterback coming out of Ole Miss. I was a little concerned about what John Gruden had to say about the verbal language and him taking the snap. And if that's all he had done up to that point, Gruden couldn't get upset about that. So what I like to see or hear is what Gruden has to say about Dart now. All right. No, I hate the new kickoff rule. Yeah, I do too. The fact that we had a weird time winning against the Giants, and so I ain't seen the Chiefs suck this much in a good while. Well, the Chiefs' problem is running the football. It goes back to any team. If you can't run the football, it makes it much more difficult to pass. But if they're able to get Pacheco going, then that will open things up downfield for them. But they're not really committed to the run either. Most of these teams are committed to the run. Like I said, Mike and Ike, everybody wants to do the same thing the other guys doing down the street. But you get me a tight end and some linemen with a good push, then Kansas City can control the clock. And they can get that running game going. And I expect them to see them try to run the ball a little bit more against Baltimore, especially with Matabuke out. You see that Baltimore's got a porous run defense, and that is problematic for them. So they better hurry up and fix that, or it's going to be a long year for Baltimore. So another thing you guys missed, when Henry fumbled, I didn't see Henry come back in the game. So once you get the reputation, or you're in a groove where you're fumbling, the other teams pick up on that, and they're going to start swiping at that ball. So pay attention to Henry this week and see if he fumbles. If he does fumble, it's already in his head, and they might give him the hook. And you might see a lot more of Justice Hill. The Ravens' defense is so bad. Offensive line is most important. Do you think the Bears showed signs of improvement, or did they just play a bad football team? Well, the Bears are getting better, but Dallas got that porous defense. I don't expect them to come out and light up their next opponent, but the Bears are showing improvement with Caleb, and I think that he's going to keep throwing that thing around, and they're not going to raise any noise in the division, I don't think, but they are getting better. Just a little time, that's all. They went against a bad team. Yeah, that's the question about Jacksonville. They won 2 games against Carolina and Houston, and that's the same question they're facing. Did they win the game because the other teams are bad? I don't think it matters, because if you're in the NFL, it's about that much difference between the top team and the worst team, and all it takes is a turnover here and there that makes a difference. And they're making the plays right now. If you win, hey, it counts. And the Bears won, so it counts. But you do have to be impressed with the way that the Bears bounce back, especially after getting drubbed by Detroit. So it's going to be a good year. And I think these young quarterbacks, the more time they get, the more they get a feel for where they are, the better they're going to play. So it's Jackson Dart's turn now, and we'll see how he's going to do this week against the Chargers. Now, the Chargers, they're going to confuse him some, but they may not throw the whole package out there, because they're not really expecting I don't think they expect the Giants to be able to stay with them. So why waste all your bullets on a team that you know you can beat? So it's going to be interesting to see how the Chargers approach that game. But Dart's going to be fine, and as the year goes on, he's going to solidify his hold as the starting quarterback. He's already been named the starting quarterback for the rest of the year, but that's coded language from Dayball saying he's the starting quarterback as long as I'm going to be here for the rest of the year. And if they lose a couple more games, Dayball is going to be gone. So it doesn't even matter anymore to him. So that's just something to think about. All right. To Good Up says, let's go Bucks. Well, I think I'm about to take the Eagles this time, man. Should be a good game tonight. Sam Donald, we started off talking about him and how he transformed last year. Ended up in Seattle, still playing good. How he plays tonight is going to determine who wins that game. But they're playing in Seattle, so I'm going to go with Seattle tonight. And the question is, today, should Jackson Dart start first the Chargers? Most of you are saying yes. I agree with that. So we'll see what goes on. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. I got to get up out of here. That bell going off, my signal to go sign in and go to work. Appreciate you guys chiming in with me. Yeah, Aaron, they did blow it against the Eagles, but they know that they can beat the Eagles. So if they play them in the playoffs again, you're going to see all those special teams, that field goal team. They're going to fix all those errors. They probably already fixed them, but they definitely got to fix it against Philadelphia. And I think they'll be ready the next time they play them. So anyway, Floppo, nice meeting you, man. Have a good day. JC said that Big Line was hustling when he picked up the ball. Yeah, he had to hustle because he know he might not never get it again. So why not take advantage of it, man? All right. I appreciate you guys, Aaron Hoffman, liking and everything. Unless there's some breaking news, I'll catch you guys in the morning at 6:30. Meantime, I got to go to work, man. So have a great day. One last look right now. You still saying 52% Dart should start tonight. I mean, not tonight, but against the Chargers this weekend. Be interesting to see how he does. But anyway, you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you on the flip side.